Hi everyone, I'm Chai. It's very sorry that I cannot go to class today. So I use video to present my final term report. The topic I want to talk about is organization learning. In today's fast-paced world, innovation and development speed has become extremely important for successful business. The fundamental of innovation is knowledge as a result of learning, and the learning attitude of organizations is known as organizational learning. Organizational learning emerged in the 1950s in reaction to the unreal claims of neoclassical microeconomics. And although the steady stream of research has been produced in the area, research on organizational learning has intensified considerably since the late 1980s. A series of organizational learning attempted to understand the process which led to or prevent change in organizational knowledge, as well as the effect of learning and knowledge on behavior and organizational outcomes. Notions of organizational learning gained prominence in the 1950s when they were thrown into an ongoing debate between behaviorists and economists. Economic model of the firm had become dominant during and after World War II. Yet many researchers, especially those with behaviorist orientation, were dissatisfied with the model. Behaviorists such as March, Simon, and Seibert attacked the classical economical theories of the firm on the ground that its models were overly simplistic and contradicted empirical. Organizational learning emphasized the organization through ongoing and effective personal learning, team learning, and learning a whole organization. Those effectively solve problems faced by the organization, and organizational innovation and enhance the ability of strength. Learning organization is an organizational learning series. In book of March and Simon Organization in 1958, they reviewed the claim of economical model that organizational decision outcomes are uniquely determined by inventory constraints. They amassed the impressive set of arguments which suggest the organizational behavior depends in important way on organizational process, which introduce massive unpredictability into organizational decision making. The history and development of organizational learning. There are many scholars have a different point of view and definition of organizational learning. We will introduce them shortly. In 1978, Engels and Shaw proposed the theories of organizational learning in their book, A Theory of Action Perspective, caused a profound impression and became very important success for business. Someone consider Engels and Shaw were the founder of the theories of organizational learning, and they define organizational learning as awareness and the correction of mistakes. Here was three types of learning also proposed by Engels and Shaw in 1978 and adapt the view of the organization. Single loop learning occurs when errors are corrected and detected within a given set of governing variables like policy and goals. Double loop learning occurs when additional or detecting and correcting error, norms and policy will adapt and improve. Dual learning occurs when double loop learning and single loop learning is under revision. Dave and Wick propose that organizational learning is a process through which knowledge can develop the relationship between organization, action, and outcomes, and to understand the impact of this environment. And they also noted two perspectives. One system structure, the other is interpretive, and that organizational learning can take place in either. Positive Java defines that organizational learning is a process that organizational knowledge-based development and formative. It can be divided for distinct and contrasting perspectives. The four distincts are organizational learning as adaptation, organizational learning as assumption sharing, organizational learning as developing knowledge of action-outcome relationship, organizational learning as institutionalized experience. Field and learning define organizational learning as the development of inside knowledge and the association between past action and future action. And they argue that the organizational learning literature actually covers two distinct concepts: cognitive learning and behavioral learning. Lift and March described organizational learning as learning by encoding inference from history into routine that guide behavior. Right Center proposed the organizational learning are considered by sharing insight, knowledge, and mental mode. He also mentioned quality improvement is a way to accelerate organizational learning. George Huber defined organizational learning is that the organization through information processing and resulting in a potential behavior change. That organizational learning has four learning: relate, construct, knowledge acquisition, information distribution, information interpretation, organizational memory. And Kim proposed that organizational learning is the ability of organization to enhance to take effective action, and it can be reached by the accumulation of personal learning. Noraka and Takushi, the development four-stage spiral model of organizational learning that started by differentiating poorly concept of tacit knowledge from lexic knowledge, and described a process of alternating between the two. First step, socialization, tacit to tacit. Second step, externalization, tacit to explicit. Third step, combination, explicit to explicit. Fourth step, internalization, explicit to tacit. Burnett, Holland. They empirically test a model of organizational learning. They encompassed both stock and flow of knowledge across three levels of analysis: individual, team, and organization. He proposed that cognitive science, especially cognitionism, provide a model of individual learning that is capable of incorporating implicit and explicit elements of learning and knowledge. He proposed that cognitive science, especially cognitionism, provide a model of individual learning that is capable of incorporating implicit and explicit elements of learning and knowledge. On the basis of such, a reconceptualization of organizational learning and a new framework to guide management practice is proposed. In Baruch, he provides the serious development of organizational learning as schools within the context of teachers, professionals, communities as learning communities, which is compared and constructed to teaching communities of practice. The criticism of organizational learning. Organizational learning is important for organization, but Peter Sankey argued 7 learning disabilities which are often responsible for organizational learning failure. The application of organizational learning. Apple's organizational learning.
As you know, Apple founded by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak in 1976. It is one of the largest technology companies in the world. The brand ranking is the first in 2013 and 2014. Over the last decade, Apple has reformed the music business through the iPod, the cell phone business through the iPhone, and entertainment and media world through the iPad. After all, it is a very famous company, but what about the organizational learning about Apple? First step, Apple generating the information. This step is continued collection and collection information in multiple sources or by primary user. For example, Apple want to create an iPhone. Apple encourages their employees to note any new construction site they saw when on the way to work or have an informal interview, or distribute questionnaire to collect information on what the consumer want or expectation or the current trend. Apple does allow employees to come up with new innovation. Team building is required in the organization where the employee cooperate to accomplish the goal. Second step, Apple integrates new or local information into organization context. Apple gather all the information and analyzes it. For example, iPod. Apple tried to work with iTunes to get more music download for free. Apple to gather the other companies' information similar to iTunes. Apple integrates staff position into life, which allows staff to spend more time in other departments to understand how it works. Apple allows their employees to voice or create new skills and functions for products they are creating it. Third step, Apple collectively interpret information. Apple's employees allowed to voice out their opinion. For example, one of the staff tried to show how to improve the procedure, what is the best solution, and so on. Maybe other of staff agree with degrees within or heard by that they can exchange information amongst themselves from different persons' perspective. The last step, Apple has the authority to take a responsible action on the interpreted meaning. This step, every organization has to take the responsible action on the information they had analyzed it. Apple needs to know what needs to do and what is wrong so that Apple will not make a wrong decision. Therefore, there are 4 steps of Apple's organizational learning.
This is my report. Thank you for your attention. See you.